All
Okay.
right, you're good.
Okay, I'm gonna do a little cold open, and then we'll get started on my half. Do you want to? You are the master of this domain. Do you want to tell the good people what what this is gonna look like? You know,
What do you?
I may throw a curveball. I don't know.
I'm trying to find the. Okay. So hey, hello everyone. If you are, we have 4 viewers, so that's good. So people are here.
4 viewers.
People are here.
That's more.
Okay, so as you guys may know, I've been doing the word series on my channel, my YouTube channel, Black-Eyed Blonde, for a while now. I started almost a year ago at this point with it.
Yeah.
And this is the author.
Hello. So, I'm not as creepy as you probably think.
And yeah, so we're just going to do a little interview. And he's going to ask me questions about myself. And I'm going to be kind of relatively inactive in the chat just because he's, using this for his podcast. So we might open it up to questions after we are done.
Yeah, and this is just so people aren't super confused whenever this gets started. I run a D&D podcast, and we're kind of changing up the formula for October, and I've been working with Black-Eyed Blonde, like you said, for like almost a year now, and I couldn't think of a better person to like get in the spooky mood with. So we're gonna do this little interview, and we're just gonna talk about how she got into her game, and then hopefully it's not too super confusing for people who have no idea what I do. Okay, are you ready to go? And then we'll get this started.
Yes, I am all set, and I just need to set up my moderator so that he can let people know. Well, anyway, all right, yeah, just get started. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Okay. So the last time we left off, Foster was looking off into the woods. He saw a pair of glowing red eyes. Sadly, he's not here today. That's even more chilling to have him disappear, especially during this strange month of October as we break out from the formula. So I think I'm going to venture alone into the woods. I haven't rolled a will save. I haven't rolled a fortitude save. So this could wind up real bad for old Drewski. But as I approach closer and closer, it doesn't look like those eyes are red at all. Foster said they're glowing red eyes, but it looks like instead of glowing red eyes, it's Master Curator, Storyteller. I'm going to do that over. Master Storyteller. Oh, Master Storyteller and Curator Extraordinaire, and my personal friend. This is Black-Eyed Blonde, not a red-eyed monster. This is Black-Eyed Blonde from her horror channel on YouTube. She reads spooky stories. She's featured me a couple times, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk to my good friend about what she does and maybe prime the pumps for some horror campaigns that you're planning to run. Hey there, Black-Eyed Blonde. How are you doing?
Hello, how are you? I'm good. I'm good.
I'm glad that you're here despite the technical difficulties.
Yes, we had a little rough start, but
it wasn't good. It wasn't good. You don't have to be modest. It was pretty bad. So Kara has black eye.
It's fine.
I can edit. I'm gonna edit this like crazy anyway. So
it's all good.
Black-Eyed Blonde has like generously offered her assistance to the Dragon's Horde podcast, and she's the first interview that we've had since the Dungeon Rat. So this is a huge honor to have you on this show, Black-Eyed.
Oh, thank you so much.
We're gonna, if we wind up like trailing off, going on tangents, that's basically the foundation that this show is built off of. So if you find a string, we'll just see where it leads us. But here on the Dragon's Horde podcast, we normally talk about role-playing games. Part of role-playing, especially as someone who runs it, is storytelling. And I would say, from what I know of you, that that is what you do best. So if you wouldn't mind, do you mind just telling us a little bit about what you do and like where you do it?
I am a horror narrator for YouTube. I started about a year ago. It'll be a year in November. And I basically narrate horror stories, one of which is Ghettoceratops' The Ward series.
That's oh no, that's my username on
Sorry, I'm
some
sorry.
some.
We're
No, no,
messing
no,
up
it's
each
okay.
other's
No,
names
no,
all the
no,
place.
no, it's so good. No, and I'm leaving all of this too. But no, no, that's Ghettoceratops is my like Reddit alias. I think a lot of people on like that is listening right now will like to the podcast when this airs. You probably know me by that username if I'm chatting with you. But yeah, I sent you some horror stories when you were, your channel was still developing,
Yeah,
and it's been it's great to see like your podcast grow or your channel grow, and to help you be a part of that. What got you into horror? Because while I think horror is a great genre, but some people definitely see it as low-hanging fruit. They think it's like all hack and slash, and but like what drew you to that as opposed to like repulsing you from the darker side of storytelling?
Just I've told this like a few times, like so some of my subscribers and stuff might know, but I used to just read scary stories with my friends. We'd go on Sixpence, the Tumblr, and I just read stories from there. And there was a few that just like really like hit home with me, and I was like, wow, these are amazing. And when I would like read them to my friend, she was like, you read these like really well. And she's like, I don't know, she just like let me know that I read them really well, and I was just like, okay, like that's cool. And I never knew that there was even a market for narration or anything. So when I found out that there was, I was like, oh, let me just try it out. I'm just gonna try it out and see how it goes. I originally did it on I have another YouTube channel, my main channel. I originally did it on there, but all of my work and stuff didn't really have a place there. It just like was so drastically different from stuff that I was doing, and it wasn't doing very well. So I decided to take the leap and make a separate channel, and it was like the best choice that I ever made. It's doing more better. That's not right, but better than I ever. Better than
I promise. She's a master storyteller. She
and I can't speak.
No, that's I've had like friends and stuff like that know me, IRL, and I definitely like, I'm always tongue-tied. I'm stumbling over words. Like I don't say things right. And like, you write all the time. You have a podcast. How do you do this?
Oh, well, my podcast is like completely unrelated to horror. And I actually only have 3 originals on my channel that I wrote myself. A lot of it, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, there's other authors like you who have been so kind as to let me read their stories.
Oh, no, I don't. The honor is all mine. Like I feel like that's the a lot of this actually leads into the next thing I want to talk about. A lot of authors now, we've seen like a resurgence in horror storytelling. Before it was really it felt like a niche market. You were talking about there not being a market for it, but with the advent of like the internet and places like No Sleep and then like creepypasta, especially, that's an internet hallmark. You've definitely managed to curate a really eclectic group of like fantastic stories. Like what are you looking for whenever you're delving into the underbelly of the internet looking for a scary story? Like what like jumps out at you?
When I'm reading a story, I kind of like that twist ending, that you read the whole story and you get to the end and you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? What? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming from a mile away. Like mind blown. And also like the mystery, like kind of like with your stories, it's like, what's going on? What's going to happen? Like, and just kind of keeps you so into it because you just like, you want to find out what's going to happen. All the twists and turns and all that kind of crazy stuff is what I really like.
There's twists.
Yeah.
Oh man. It's twisted, maybe is a better word. you have such like a friendly demeanor in like even in the audio of you like reading these stories. It's this like beautiful combination of being like, oh, like she sounds like someone who wants to be your friend, but also you're like, and then they killed the pig and drank its blood, like kind of stuff. Man, it's freaking great. And oh man, your channel is like really inspiring, and that's why I kind of wanted to have, that's especially why I wanted to have you on the show is mainly, my wheelhouse is talking about like role-playing games, things like D&D, but there's also a whole nother subgenre of that deal with like horror elements. There's a game that is heavy-handedly really inspired off of Lovecraft, who's like one of my personal favorite authors.
Yeah.
And it's just called Call of Cthulhu, and it's a game, it's a role-playing game, and we were so unsure about how to like integrate that into our show as well. And I was actually going through your YouTube channel, and I was like, oh my gosh, like she's a storyteller. That's all we do. And it's you have this like masterful hand on your craft. And I'm trying to flow gently into my next topics, but do you feel like whenever you're telling a story, what's your motivation there? Like, is it to obviously you're wanting to represent the author, and you're wanting to like do them justice, but whenever you are like, what do you define as good whenever you get done with like one of your stories? Like, what makes you like sit back and be like, yeah, I'm proud of this thing? Like, what defines your genre? Because you're making it. You're one of the very few story readers that are exclusively doing horror. So how are you defining genre?
I don't really know.
This may be a rougher question.
Yeah, I really
you are defining this wave of storytelling. Yeah. Like, you are one of the very few.
I kind of really like to put the like emotion into it, and like if the person is feeling scared or afraid or upset, I kind of try and convey that. And I know like some authors, it's their style to kind of read more monotone, and some people are into that. But I kind of want to make the listener feel afraid and feel scared and actually like hear that while they're listening to the story.
Yeah, you do a great job of like evoking emotion and bringing that out, and even in some stories that I had read before that I had saw you covered on your channel, like there's a whole nother dynamic to having someone reading it back to you. What is like, if you could maybe you have done it on your channel or you haven't done it on your channel. Do you know any stories like off the top of your head that really like made your skin crawl, that really like itch, or they scratched that horror itch for you?
The first two that I did on my channel, which I'm actually probably going to redo as like a one year celebration thing, because those first two I actually recorded them on my phone. So I've come a little bit come a little bit of way from there, but it's Death at 423 Stockholm Street. That one was kind of like, I was like, oh my gosh, like the reason why I started is because like those stories made me feel something. And also Autopilot, which are the first two stories.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I was like, wow, like I want other people to be able to, if they want to listen to it, like I also want them to feel the kind of horror that I felt when I was, reading it. I want to convey that through like, narrating and this craft. So that's kind of how I got, really got into it. And it's like, that's my ultimate goal, is just like make people feel, like actually feel it.
Yeah, dude, yeah. Like it's so hard to, it's such a difficult task to convince somebody to be scared. And you managed to curate such like peculiar stories that fit inside this niche of, it's like, oh, this isn't like they're genre defining, and it's fantastic to see a independent maker like yourself bring those together. And is there like, with that, and you said that you look for certain things whenever you're curating stuff, but is there like, are there tropes, both good and bad, out? Because I kind of want to cover both, because the people who are going to be listening to this podcast, maybe not so much the people on this live show, but people that are listening to the Dragon's Horde podcast, they're storytellers too, in a way. And is there any like really glaring like pitfalls that authors fall into as far as scary that like ruin the whole mood of it? And also, kind of going off of that, is there anything that you know that's like tried and true that's like, this will really get your skin crawling, just, you know, dash this in there?
This is really probably very much just my own personal opinion, but a lot of people get like, when you know the word, like, obviously creepypasta. And when I think of the word creepypasta, I think of like Slender Man and like all those kind of characters.
Yeah, like the internet folklore.
Yeah, and a lot of times in that specific part of horror, it's a lot of like, okay, let me just put as much gore into this as possible, make it very like hack and slash, like you were saying before, and that kind of gets, you know, it's just like, oh, you're not even really writing anything, you're just kind of trying to make it just so gory that you kind of are losing what you're trying to do. So
it's either that or a haunted video game. It's one of the two. It's, you know, either they find a haunted video game or they're like killing stuff.
Yeah. So like that's one of the, like, I don't really seek out those stories just because of like, I guess that could be like the pitfalls that they just try and too much gore, like too over the top.
That's one of my favorite quotes about horror is, be careful of adding too much blood into a room, because after a while it'll just look like the walls were painted red. And yeah, I love that you said that, because, you know, if there's so much gore, eventually it's going to look like, well, it's supposed to be that way. You know, it's normal. You know, people just get eviscerated and then strung up by their entrails.
You know, lots of like, just like copying and similar stuff, like especially with that specific part. I usually don't read stories like in that specific creepypasta area. I know that a lot of people consider, I guess, anything that I do that's not true a creepypasta, but I'm just like, I prefer to call it a scary story. If it doesn't feature like one of those characters. Like I have done one like with Smile Dog. I did that in the beginning. But it's not usually my favorite thing to pick out.
It definitely has its own flavor. The different corners of the internet produce different fruit in a way. And I think that's also the appeal of your storytelling, is that you find things that are niche. You find things that definitely don't fit into like genre molds. And I would consider you like a professional storyteller. Like whether you're getting paid for it or not, you're doing this as like a profession. It's a craft that you're developing. And this is, I said this before, and I kind of got you off track. Is there any like tips that you have for people that are either trying to write scary stories, or like they're trying to, because again, like the people that are normally on my listening to my podcast, they're developing it for a game. But do you know any tips and tricks for the amateur storyteller, or anything that I guess personally that you find attractive in scary stories?
I like lots of details, lots of emotion. Like if the character in the story is scared or something is happening like that, really try and you know, describe that and make the person, whether the listener or the reader, feel that. That's always really fun to read, and also really fun to narrate. If the person is like, you know, not just like, and then I went into the closet, oh my God, like, you know.
It's so scary. Scariest closet ever. What we're gonna get kind of personal. What is something that scares you the most? Like, what is your biggest fear? Like, what's something that really gets you going? I will open up a little bit and say, I hate hallways so much. I hate reading about hallways. I hate looking at hallways. Hallways are the worst. I think I've mentioned that on our show before, but there's been a couple that you've done where you'll just like mention like, oh, this was a room and it was longer than a square, and I'm like, that's close to a hallway, like I can't listen to this. Is there anything like that for you? Any like those visceral fears?
I really hate, like, this is more, I guess, visual, but if like someone's getting their eyes gouged out.
Oh, eyes! Oh no!
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it so much. Or like losing a limb.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Is there any is there any like specific? We can get graphic. I don't care. Like, what is, are you talking about like hacking it off or ripping it off? This is October, so we'll get real spooky.
Just any sort of loss of a limb, it just really freaks me out. I guess because something like I would never, I don't, I fear it happening to myself. Like I wouldn't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just like, oh no, I feel bad. How's that? Like I start thinking about like, how are they gonna like move on from that? And I just like get in this whole thought process that like is way off the movie, and like it doesn't matter because it's like a fictional movie or story, and it's whatever. But it just like really, really bothers me.
It's like they can't open up a microwave with just one hand. Like, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, weird. I get on like a weird thought pattern like that, and I'm just like, are they gonna fix it? Like, that stuff really bothers me. Really bothers me.
Oh, and that's the man. You're killing it. You're like going right into my points I want to make. Comedy and horror have such a weird relationship to each other, in that it seems like they're both, like, horror seems to be very dependent on also an amount of like masochism and cynicism, but humor tends to it feels like it makes it a little bit more palatable. In your experience from reading stories, how, like, because there's definitely like great stories out there that have like Jeff the Killer is another like internet whatever that was a phenomenon for a while.
Yeah.
And like where do you feel comedy fits inside the horror genre? We have people like, especially since the new It movie came out, you have Pennywise, who is, he's literally a clown, so comedy fits in there somewhere. Do you have any talking points on like the relationship of that? If you don't, that's fine. It's just I was musing about that today.
I haven't had much experience with it so much in like stories that I've personally read or stories that I usually choose to read. I like the kind of, especially with like Let's Not Meet stories and the true stories, I kind of like when the person writing it puts like an offhand remark or something in there. Like that's always kind of funny. Or it's like, oh my gosh, I shit my pants. Like,
yeah.
So like that's like the most experience I've really had with it in writing. But I know a lot of people didn't like the comedy in it. I personally thought the movie was very like all around good. It had the funny parts. It had the scary parts. So sometimes it's a good relief in the middle of like being terrified. It kind of makes the characters more real.
Yeah, it adds another dimension to what's going on. So besides your channel, where would you encourage others to look for something, some scary inspiration? There's a wellspring of stuff on the internet, but Lord knows most of it's trash. Are there other avenues that you get inspired by? Like, even if it's an old woman across your street, or it's a video game you've played, is there other mediums that you find that really spark that inspiration in you?
Movies. I mean, yeah, definitely movies have really inspired me too, and actual books. Yeah, like, I wish I could, without copyright infringement, there's some like actual books I would love to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind like, do you have any like books in mind or authors that you particularly enjoy?
There's so many. It's so hard. Whenever somebody asks me this question, I'm always like, no, I don't.
Yeah. I would personally pay you from my pocket to narrate, like do an ebook of any of Lovecraft's works. Yeah. I would shell out so much money for that.
I don't know. I'm actually not sure. I know you can do Edgar Allan Poe because he's dead. I don't know really know like the complete rules around that. I don't know if you could, is Lovecraft like fall under that category? I don't know if people have done him.
I think Lovecraft is in the public domain now.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna do some real-time Googling. All works published before 1923 are in the public domain.
so maybe not yet.
Yeah, Lovecraft publish. Oh, this is great audio entertainment. Now I'm just curious, and you're not yet.
Not yet.
No, you gotta wait like 2 years.
2 years. All right. In 2 years, I could do Lovecraft.
Yeah, please do. I'm sure I am. Oh, I would eat my hat if your channel wasn't around in the next 2 years. You were saying something though.
Oh, now I forgot. What was I going to say?
Oh no.
Oh my goodness. Oh, there was
go.
There was a story I read in it might be in the public domain. I have to double check that I read in high school called The Yellow Wallpaper. And it would be quite an undertaking because I think it's a little bit longer, and usually like with the time and everything that I have to actually do things, I don't know if it's going to be possible immediately, but I would love to do that one day because that was one of those stories I was like, oh, that's weird. And it has one of those endings you kind of have to interpret for yourself and kind of be like, what did happen? What was going on there?
Oh, that's another thing. You remind me of that. I write primarily whenever I'm writing for like myself or I'm doing any like creative writing. I like to write in the horror genre too, and that's actually kind of what I feel like that's what led us together creatively. Is I was writing a whole bunch, and I wanted to get my stuff out there and just to see what people thought of it. And I normally write in the horror genre, which is there's a huge breadth about what horror can be. It's really not clearly defined. So when you come to an ending of a horror story, do you find it more satisfying to have oh, it ended now and this guy was the killer, or that's the reason why their house was haunted? Or do you prefer that like suspension that I don't know what this is? Because I feel like that right now is the big debate in modern writing is, I'm going to get a little nerdy, but modernity focuses so much on imagism, images and having solid facts. And then here comes horror writers, people like Daniel Lusky. He wrote, what is it called? House of Leaves. He wrote House of Leaves.
I have that book in my house, and you know what? I heard it's really difficult to read, and I haven't started it yet.
Oh, I have tried. I have been in the process. It's probably been 5 years. And I haven't. It's been 5 years. I'm just gonna say that.
It's been 5 years.
I started reading it, and I was all the way back when I was in college. I started reading it, and it gave me nightmares. Not because it was particularly scary, but because it was so stressful to read. Because there are some pages that are blank, some pages that all the text is written on top of the text. Sometimes the text is in the shape of a house. And you have to, and I
heard you kind of have to like flip back and forth sometimes between pages, or like it tells you to go to like another part of the book, and you're like, wait, what's happening?
Sometimes it tells you to go to a piece of work, like it'll be like, oh, if you want to know more about this thing, go to this piece of work, and it doesn't exist. Like it is oh man, it's like the decathlon of horror books, and people like Daniel Lusky, there's no end to House of Leaves, and there's no beginning either. Would you, as again a professional, I would say a professional curator, would you discourage that, or are you where do you fall on the side of that fence?
I mean, I'm in no position to tell anybody what they want to do with their writing.
Well, you're a voice on this topic. Yeah. You do kind of have that standing.
I think that, I mean, I know a lot of people, like just from reading comments from doing YouTube and stuff like that, if there isn't an ending and like they're not made aware, some people do get upset.
Yeah.
I know that I do like a sense of closure usually, but it depends on the context of what's being done.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the best way that I compare it to is like sometimes you're like watching a horror movie, for example, and the whole time the entity or whatever is like chasing the person in the movie, you don't see it. And then kind of all of a sudden they show it and you're like, oh, well, you know what? I would have rather just had that be a mystery because this CGI is horrible.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah.
So like depending on the context, sometimes it's like, all right, no, it's better left a mystery and like that you didn't reveal whatever that was. It's just better for the story. Because sometimes it can make it corny depending on the context. So I think it just depends on which direction it's going.
You're so much more succinct than I am in saying things. It's like talking is your job or something.
No, oh my gosh, that's so unusual too. Usually I try to explain something and I have to like explain it with like hand motions because I can't get the words out.
Yeah, for all the people in the live chat,
I'm doing like, really good right now.
Well, I'll do jazz hands for the both of us because I don't know why the heck I started a podcast because I can't make any like brief statements to save my life. Unlike Black-Eyed Blonde, who is on YouTube, she does a great job on her horror channel. She features a lot of works that you may not see very often. Black-Eyed Blonde has been a good friend of mine, and I really encourage you to check her out on YouTube. She does a great job with all of her stories. It kind of sounds like you're really revving up for October.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying. So I usually upload once a week, which is really just with my current schedule and the way things are. That's just what I can physically do. Usually if I want to do more than that, I kind of have to plan ahead. Like, okay, like I'm going to be going on vacation. So like, or like it's a holiday and I need to do like one for my Tuesday upload and one for Christmas or something. I usually have to plan ahead and like make sure that I get everything done and super organized. But for this October, I'm actually trying, I hope it works out, trying to do a 13 days or 13 nights of Halloween. Where I upload for 13 days in a row.
Oh my gosh.
I know a lot of people in the like narration community will do like daily uploads for October, but that's just like, that is not going to happen. So to go from doing one video a week to trying to do 16 videos for the entire month of October, because the first 3 weeks I still need to have an upload. So I think it's like comes out to like 16 videos.
Oh my gosh.
It's quite the struggle. I think I'm up to 5 out of 16. So we're going. It's happening.
Yeah.
I still have time. So
yeah, yes you do. Yes you do. And we wish you the best. Is there anything you would like to plug? Like anything that you have going on besides the Black-Eyed Blonde YouTube channel? Anything you want to make it? It doesn't even have to be something you're doing. You know, a cause or foundation you believe in?
No, I do have a main channel. The link is actually in this description box if anyone wants to check that out. I've been pretty inactive on it since I've started doing this channel, and it's gone so well. Like I have 5,000 something subscribers here, and I've been doing the other one for longer, and I only have 900. So this one just kind of like not like blew up, but like went so much like better, had steady growth. So I've kind of been really focusing on it just because it's what's working. But I do have a main channel with like regular vlog videos and stuff like that I talk about like normal life things.
Well, Black-Eyed Blonde, it has been such a pleasure having you in like digital person here to talk with me. This is long overdue. We're so glad to have you on the show, helping out some of our people tell a better scary story. Do you have anything you want to sign off with? Is there anything you like? No?
Do you want to open up to if anyone has questions? Do you want to answer
questions? For sure. I'm done with what I need, so I got everything I needed.
There's not that many of you here right now today. Usually we have a bit more people. I don't know if it's because I'm using Google Hangouts or whatnot. But if anyone in the chat has any questions for me or for the author of the Ward series, just pop them on out. Let's see if we get any.
Whip them out. Whip out those questions.
Whip out questions.
I don't know.
Yeah, I usually have more of a response to the live stream. I don't know what's going on. If it didn't notify people or
I don't know.
Whatever.
I mean,
It's
that's fine. Mm.
It's cool. Because I usually use the OBS, but I don't know how to get other people to get on that. Like, I'm not tech savvy. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has any questions or if we're going to get.
That's fine with me. You know, if at the end of the day, it's just, it's asylums are full of hallways, and those are spooky.
Yes, exactly. So you're kind of writing about like your fear a little bit.
Yeah, in a way, I live right beside Waverly Hills Sanatorium.
Oh my goodness, that's great.
Like right near it. And I went there a couple of times as a kid and was really impressed with kind of the lore around it. And normally whenever I write, I really like a good ghost story. And whenever I write some of my stuff on No Sleep, which is where I normally post, it's normally like kind of ghost stories or it's ghostly in a way. And I kind of wanted to break from that and do something that didn't have to deal with ghosts. It was kind of Lovecraftian and
really good.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
We do have some comments.
Questions.
So Mike says it's not really a question, but a compliment of sorts. I really like how the ward was written in terms of detail to atmosphere setting and how graphic it is. It's really well written and narrated, so it's more of a compliment. And
thanks, Mike.
One for, I guess, just for my channel. Any plans for the next mega collaboration? 10K. We'll probably do another one. I wanted to start my own horror. Antonio says, I want to start my own horror channel. What advice would you give? Just do it. Just start. Just start. Go on ahead and just do it. If you have to record on a phone or anything like that, just jump into it, get started, start working on it. Everything else will just kind of come and fall into place.
Yeah, I may not be in the same wheelhouse as you are, but we're both entertainers in our own right, and that's what started. I have I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I hope this gives me a little like validity. We have a global audience. We have people all the way out in Vietnam that listen to us every week on our on the Dragon's Horde podcast, and that's exactly Blackeyed is exactly right. Just do it. I sat down with my buddy, my co-host. I'm like, I really like role-playing games, and I could talk about them all day, and we might as well see if other people want to talk to. And now I'm part of an affiliate, like a network of podcasts, and we have people from all around the world. There's literally nothing stopping you, and also there's nothing stopping you from being successful at it.
Yeah. Oh, you have a question for you. Mike asks, for the author of the ward, any plans after the series?
Oh, no. The ward is going to be I don't want to play my hand too much because I know it's going to happen. Yes, there are plans for whenever the ward ends. But the ward is not going to be over quite so soon. There's a lot of stuff left to come on the ward, and a lot more like twists and turns and weird like suppositories and people getting hung up in living rooms and stuff.
Ooh.
This past post was you can expect more of that kind of stuff showing up, like a little bit more grisly side. But I now that I had a bunch of stuff going on, and now I've got a little bit more free time to write, and I've been writing more. So you can check me out on No Sleep, and I will be posting stuff besides the ward a lot more regularly. And if that winds up turning into another series, like any of those works, then so be it. But for right now, yeah, there's some plans for like follow-ups on the ward. So yeah.
Awesome. And I will, when we're done here, I'll make sure to link his Reddit in the description box if you guys want to check that out.
I really appreciate it.
And if you want to send me the link to your podcast too, I can pop that in there so you guys can check out all of everything.
For sure. We mainly focus on like role playing in Dungeons and Dragons, but if you like that, then you're more than welcome to come over. We We call it a pseudo-narrative D&D advice column. So some people listen to us just because there's a funny story going on, and other people listen to us because they like the advice. I know a couple people that will skip through like the advice just to hear how the story is going to happen, but it's a lot less structured than my horror writing.
Oh.
It's a little bit more improv, a little less planning.
Yeah, I'm pretty unfamiliar with D&D, but I know that it's like a lot. You have to be really committed, and you have, you know, a lot of creativity and everything like that to keep the good story going.
Yeah, that's it's rough, but you know, storytelling is like 99% of it. So you actually probably our two demographics are not so different.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see.
Do we got I'm trying to open up I don't know if I can even see people commenting, but I pressed the Q&A thing because I thought that's what it'd be, and it's not opening because nothing I want to do on my computer
nothing is working right now.
Nothing is working, and it's great.
Let's see, we have some questions for, I guess for me. Can you do true Dogman stories for Halloween? If you send me some, I haven't come across any recently. So I'll pop my email down here, and if you want to send me some true Dogman stories or direct me towards some, I will be glad to do that for you. And also, what Black-Eyed Blonde, what are your favorite horror stories about? That's from 0072. I kind of touched on it before. I really like the gruesome stuff, like really like messed up stories, which is kind of like not necessarily good with what's been going on YouTube with the whole demonetization thing, whatever, because of things are actually none of your stories have been touched. So knock on wood. But yeah, I really like the gruesome kind of stories, the messed up stories where it's like something like horrible happens, which like makes me sound like a terrible person. But those are really what I like. And the twist endings, like I said, all that kind of stuff are my favorites. Yeah, so any more questions? If not, I think we're about ready to wrap it up. If there aren't any more questions. Let's see. I'll give them a few minutes. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. I'm glad that everything kind of worked out.
Yeah, I know. I had talked to you a little bit, and you're like, I'm really busy in October. And then I was talking to my co-host, and he's like, you really want her to have it? Like, you really want her on the show? I'm like, I really, really want her on the show. And, I hope that
he couldn't be here.
Yeah, he's actually, I think he's going on a date tonight. And he told me like yesterday, and I was like, so you're gonna so I was like, oh, so it's fine, you know, you don't have to be on the interview and stuff. And he's like, I'm gonna try and like get out of there real quick so I can get on the interview. But I guess that didn't work out.
I guess it went well. Hopefully it went well.
Hopefully it did. Yeah. That's you know, fingers crossed. The poor guy. All he has is the podcast.
Oh,
that's all. No, he's a great guy. Yeah, no, it was great having you on the show, and I hope I didn't like bombard you too much with.
No, it was great. No, everything is good.
I'm glad. I'm definitely not a professional interviewer. I'm better at like rambling and finding tangents.
Yeah, for sure. I'm usually that way too.
Yeah. Or you know, writing about what are some highlights of this past the ward part 6? Infusing. I'm better at writing about infusing vitamins through an enema bag.
Yeah, there you go.
You said you posted that today, right?
Yes, it came out today. That's why I was like, this is perfect because I the story dropped today, so I was like, that would be really cool to have the interview like also like be today and go live. So just kind of go with that.
I can't wait to hear you say some of these things. Kidney failure and liver failure. Oh, it's gonna be great.
Yes. So if you haven't started the series, there's a playlist on my channel. Let me try and link it in the chat here so that if you guys are interested to begin the series, because I know that I've had since the last one, I've had a lot of new subscribers, so maybe some people haven't started. If you have started and you have wondered where it's been, part 6 came out today.
Yeah. Oh, and I feel like this is the best place to apologize. I was actually predisposed with getting married and a honeymoon, so I didn't have much time to write
Which
between
is
that.
fine, please.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you much. My wife is actually probably wondering where I am right now. She's I can hear her every once in a while, like off messing around in the kitchen. But yeah, so I do want to apologize because I love writing and I love writing for the ward and I love writing for you, Blackeyed. And this is this is a great time to catch up on the ward because there's going to be a lot more of it to come and it's going to be coming out. And I'm hoping starting this week, I'm hoping that I can do something about once every week. Sometimes like writer's block is too hard to get past, but that's what I'm shooting for. So this is a great time to start reading up on the Ward series. It feels weird talking about stuff I write. It's very odd.
Oh, it's awesome. But like I said before we started, the response has been pretty positive. So
I'm just glad to help you like grow your channel. We had a lot of weird like fluke things happen with our podcast that got us a lot of exposure in weird ways, and I just hope I can play a little bit of part in helping your channel do well, because I know how hard it is to start out with really start from the bottom up, the ground up, and I hope my amateur horror writing has helped you in some way at all.
It's been really awesome, and it's funny because when I started reading it, I kind of like I picked it out and I read the first part and I thought it was going to be like about one thing, and then it just went in such a different direction. I was like, I love this. I'm so excited that he said yes.
I was so worried about that because I read the stories about the park. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm using up way too much of your time.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Okay. I know you want to watch American Horror Story.
I do want to watch it.
I'll try to keep it brief. I read there's some really popular stories on No Sleep and some other places about a park ranger, and he just tells stories. And there's this weird line between you don't know if he's telling you the truth or not. And he just in each one of his posts, he tells 2 or 3 stories about some weird stuff that happened to him during his like shift as a park ranger. And I saw those. I'm like, that's such a cool idea. So I kind of tried to fit that into something that I understand, I know, which that sounds weird because I don't work at Asylum, but like I'm familiar with that, and that also kind of gives me the chills. And but then I've also been wanting to write something about Lovecraft, and I'm like, how about we just
combine?
They have a baby, and then we see what happens. And so far, it has ended in gray dust and enema bags, and I couldn't be more pleased.
And I love asylums too, and I'm kind of running out of pictures at this point now, but what I was doing is using like real pictures from like when I went to places and stuff, and like right now I'm up to using my Eastern State Penitentiary pictures, and I was using pictures from a local asylum near me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have to go somewhere else or ask other people to maybe send some of their real photos from like their urban exploring experiences, because I'm kind of running out. Because I was like, oh, maybe it's going to be like, because I was thinking, oh, it's going to be like, what did you have, like 4 parts when we started? 4
parts, yeah.
So I'm like, four parts, that's doable. Like,
oh, I'm sorry. And
then I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be a thing, which I was super excited about, but I was like, oh, I'm going to run out of images.
Yeah, your B-roll for weird haunted asylums. Well, I mean, there's a ton of B-roll for Waverly Hills, so you may be able to find something there. That's where a lot of this that's where a lot of it comes from. And also, like, I am not a woman, but I try and like in the story I try and write from like a female's perspective. I hope that comes through. I think you actually like finally said like she in this one, or like I was like getting a boyfriend. Like you definitely like made it something like
clear that it was a girl.
And I like that idea of like alienation and both because I'm in the process of writing. I'm trying to make my readers in a way uncomfortable, and but I also am trying to impose that on myself because I don't understand what it means to be a female. But that kind of makes me like, it kind of sets me off balance a little bit, and I feel like I was. Oh man, I feel like I struck gold whenever you're like, "Oh, I'll narrate this for you." And I'm like, "A woman,
Right? Yeah,
like a woman found me and likes horror stories."
it's so funny because one of like I guess the like running gags around the community is because there's mostly male narrators that go, "I'm a 16-year-old girl, I'm a 16-year-old girl," and it's like this guy with a really deep voice just being like, "I'm a girl."
Yeah, it's like, I'm a 5-year-old schoolgirl.
Yeah,
And
just like that. So that's kind of like one of the running gags. What some people have started doing is kind of like this story is told from a female perspective, which is a little bit less comical.
Yeah, well, and also like kind of in a way it kind of breaks the immersion, and that's why I wanted to say, I want to give you every bit of praise that you deserve, and having a female kind of you're charting uncharted ground right now. There's not a lot of people that are doing this that I feel like do justice from a female's perspective, and from a guy writing writing as a female. I was so honored to be like, wow, I feel like this story is actually going to get represented in a way that isn't really ad hoc-y or funny.
Yeah,
because the war isn't supposed to be funny. There's some like moments of sincerity, but
yeah, and like some little like offhanded, like smart remarks that the protagonist makes, which is always like adds a little bit of flavor. Which is fun. I love when they get like when she gets like sarcastic, and it's like, well,
There's whenever like I always try in every single one of the parts, I try and mention like a coworker that she has, and that's where I get to be like some stress relief, I guess, and be like, oh, who's it, Dana?
Yes, Dana was funny.
Yeah, she's just, oh man, I feel like this is really like, self-masturbatory to look through my own stuff and be like, this was funny, look at this thing. But yeah, no, I love this stuff and the thing is, it's in like the Ludo narrative realm of, whenever I heard you read for the first time, I was like, wow, like she understood it, like she got it, and
I'm glad I did. I'm so glad I did.
I don't know if anybody is even left in this live chat, but I'm just having
Oh, it says there's 9 people. No one's talking, but it says there's 9 people apparently watching. Hello, everybody.
Regardless, I'm enjoying talking to you, and I'm glad that I can like verbally tell you that you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
The biggest thing I don't know how much writing you do yourself, but the biggest thing for a creator, in my perspective, is feeling represented well. And I have been thrilled, just absolutely astounded with the work that you do. And I am so confident in writing for you in the future. And even if it's not the Word series, like really, you feel free to pick up any of my works any day.
Yes, definitely. I'll definitely add it to my repertoire for things I have to narrate in the future.
I would be absolutely honored if you did.
Definitely, for sure. I've been enjoying this so much so far, and I'm so grateful that like this has like been an ongoing working relationship that we've had.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. I definitely didn't expect that at all. Whenever you're like, hey, like, because whenever we first started talking, and you cut me off at any time and say, shut up, like I gotta go watch American Horror Story.
Of course.
I got approached by the No Sleep podcast, and they wanted.
Oh wow.
They wanted to feature my story that I had posted on No Sleep, Cold Wind, Cold Earth, and that was like, I think that was either the first or the second story I'd ever posted. And they're like, we want to feature this, we want to put this in like an anthology book that we're writing. And I was like, oh man, that's freaking awesome. And people were, that was a big exposure moment. But I definitely can say, like, working with you like this, I don't know if intimate is too close of a word, but like, or too strong of a word, but like, it's been really nice to kind of hand over the baby, so to speak, and to still be able to like, oh, she's not dropping it, or she's not accidentally feeding it cyanide or something. Like
Yeah,
I don't know. It's nice to have that closeness. And
that makes sense.
yeah, I really appreciate that. It puts my mind at ease, at least. And I can't think of more capable hands for some of the crazy, like, weird detritus that comes out of my brain. So
I'm truly honored. Thank you so much.
no, the honor's all mine. I will let you go, though, so you can watch American Horror Story,
Yes,
and these fine 9 people can go to bed.
yes, yeah. I always forget, like, the time change is a little weird because a lot of people are in, like, California or, like, another country or something, and it's crazy. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad that we got this to work as much as we could.
Yeah, we did. You know, if it's not worth, you know, throwing together, then it's not worth doing it all. So I'm happy that I could at least patch together something.
Yes, for sure. And for anybody who may have just been joining now or who is going to miss this, I will be saving this, so you can watch it later and listen back if you are interested. So yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on your channel.
We
and
kind of like co-did, like, I'm on your podcast, you're on my channel.
Yeah, it was
great.
A nice use. Yeah, it was. And I would be very interested if you ever need anything in the future. You have my phone number now. So
yes, I do. Thank you.
Yeah, you feel free to text me at any time.
For sure.
If you need more stories, if you're wanting a genre, I can do my best, and I will keep in contact with you because I'd love to work with you in the future on
yes, definitely,
on some of my projects.
Yeah, for sure. I am here as much as I can be. I will try to do whatever I can to my capabilities.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's been great talking. It has really been a pleasure talking to you.
Yes,
really
it has. I'm very excited that this happened. Thank you so much. And good night, everyone.
Yeah. See ya.